Hello, sixth graders. This lesson is our last in the weather unit. The next 2 weeks, we're going to shift to something else to finish out the year. So this is our last weather topic. So today we're going to wrap everything up, talk about how pressure and Coriolis and wind is kind of all related to each other, and end the topic talking about cyclones and the project for the next 2 weeks. So let's get started here. So here's our notes. We have what's called lows and highs, and this just is talking about pressure. So you have lows, which are low pressure. On a weather map, they have an L for low. These areas of low pressure mean there's rising air. We talked about this last week when we talked about Hadley cells. So low pressure means rising air. As the air rises and it's low pressure, the high pressure comes moving in towards the center of the low. As it goes in and up, it can't just go all the way in, right? We have this thing called Coriolis effect in the northern hemisphere. So as this air is coming in, it wants to go straight to this low pressure middle, but it can't. It gets deflected to the right a little bit, right? It gets deflected to the right. Instead of coming straight to the center, it actually spins around the low pressure counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. So as this air rushes in, it gets deflected to the right and actually spins around these low pressures. What's really interesting about these lows is that they create weather fronts. So if you see, let's look at this picture here. As this air wants to spin counterclockwise, right? Well, as it pulls the air in, this cold air from the north gets pulled in and starts to spin this way. This cold air is moving underneath the warm air and makes our cold fronts, and it pulls warm air up from the south and creates warm fronts because this warm air is getting pushed over colder air. So our low pressure system is kind of what drives our weather and creates our weather fronts. Just like lows, we also have highs, which are an H on a weather map. These are areas of high pressure, and we know that high pressure is sinking air. Let me move my picture here. Sinking air is coming down, and it's high pressure. So as it comes in to the high, it wants to spin. It gets deflected to the right as it comes into the high, and highs actually spin the opposite direction. They spin clockwise in the northern hemisphere, counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so here I'm looking at a weather map of today. This is weatherunderground.com. It's a pretty cool website that has these really cool weather maps. So you can actually look at the highs and the lows if you click fronts over here. And then I like to put wind stream because it really shows how the wind moves around these high and low pressure systems. So let's take a look at it. If it ever loads here. So if we zoom in on the high pressure, you can see that all this air is spinning out from it, kind of in this clockwise rotation, right? You can see the air moving this way, and it's moving this way. So we have a clockwise rotation with the high. Now let's go over here and look at a low. This low over here looks really cool. It's actually pulling this cold air into Minnesota this morning. Let's see here. So as you can see, we have some kind of crazy stuff going on here, but this air is moving towards the low and actually spinning around it. But if you look at this, is a better system even here. You can see that this air spins around the low counterclockwise. It's coming in here, it's coming in here, spinning this way. So your lows have counterclockwise rotation. So let's go ahead and look at our notes again. So looking at this weather map, you can see that your lows, you have this air rotating counterclockwise because it's coming in towards the center of the low. It brings this cold air down, creating a cold front, brings the warm air up, making a warm front. It's spinning counterclockwise. Your highs, your air is moving out from it because it's high pressure. It wants to go to lower pressure areas, high to low. It's going out, but then it curves to the right, right? So our air is moving clockwise for highs, counterclockwise for lows. Okay, your lows have the weather because the air is rising, and we know that rising air creates clouds and weather and nimbostratus clouds, things like that are all related to rising air. So here are a couple of big takeaways. For lows, air moves in towards the center and spins counterclockwise and creates weather fronts. Highs, the air moves away from the center and spins clockwise away from the center and usually creates clear conditions because the air is not rising, it's sinking. Okay? And this kind of relates, well, definitely relates to cyclones. There are many different types of cyclones, but one of them are like these low pressure systems. A cyclone is simply a system of rotating winds. So rotating air is a cyclone. They go counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere, clockwise in the southern hemisphere. They can be super large scale like our low pressure systems or hurricanes, or they can be small like tornadoes, right? We have tornadoes with really severe weather. That's associated with low pressure and moving winds, right? So here's just some pictures of different cyclones. Low pressure systems create your weather, right? Cyclones are all associated with weather and severe weather. So you have your cold front here and your warm front with your low pressure system. It's spinning counterclockwise. This is all in the northern hemisphere, right? In the southern hemisphere, it would be opposite. If you look here, you have a cyclone, a hurricane actually in the Gulf of Mexico. It's spinning counterclockwise. Still pretty big though, right? It's as big as 1 or 2 states. And finally, we have our tornadoes, which can be super small scale as well, right? So a tornado is very local, not very big. It's way smaller than even just one field. And that would be another example of a cyclone or severe weather. Now, let's talk about the project that's going to finish out our weather unit. You can focus on severe weather or a couple of other things. We didn't really get to touch on severe weather too much this year, but you have an opportunity to do kind of a research project on that if you would like. So let's look at it. I'm calling it a choice board because you get to choose your project. There are 5 options and you get to choose one of them to do. So for the next 2 weeks, one of your assignments is going to be to create a project related to weather. Although all projects will be related to weather, you will be choosing which project you create. Below are the choices for your projects. You must choose one of the 5 for this unit. It's going to be worth 25 test points. I've been putting in all your points this quarter as assignment points. Test points are worth a lot more. Okay, so really make sure you get this done. It's going to be due on May 22nd, which isn't this Friday, but a week from this Friday. For each project, you'll have to do some research. I'm not going to give you the information. You can go back to my Edpuzzles and look at them, but you're probably going to have to do your own research for the topic and create a project using the appropriate format. So if you're writing me a story or a poem, I would say use Google Docs. If you're making a video for me, I can put up a Flipgrid for you. Or you can do like what I'm doing here and do a screencast. But I'm not going to give you your own directions. You're going to have to figure out a way to do this on your own. This is kind of a problem-solving project. You're going to pick the project you want to do, and you're going to figure out how to present it to me. Now, I've given you some ideas for each one, but if you want to do it in a different way that still gets the project done, I'm open to that as well. let's go ahead and see what kind of projects we have. Your first option is write a rap, a song, or poem to explain severe weather phenomenon, so like thunderstorms, hurricanes, things like that. And you will have to perform the song or poem on Flipgrid. For this project, you have to tell me how it forms, where it forms, what kind of impacts it has, things like that. Okay, it can't just be. It has to be scientific, right? It can't just be just like a story of a tornado that goes and gets married and has a happy life, right? That doesn't make any sense. Your other project is you can use materials found around your home and make a weather instrument. Some examples are anemometers, barometers, rain gauges, whatever weather instrument you want to make, you can make it. The instrument must be homemade. You can't buy it in a store and present it like you made it. You have to hand make it. And then you have to write a short explanation of how you made your device, what it measures, and how it's related to weather. Okay, you can use materials around your house and Google Docs to create the explanation. Your third choice, choose 3 nonfiction texts about weather. So find 3 articles or 3 books about weather, read them carefully, and for each one of them, for 3 of them, you're going to write the main idea, some supporting details that you found from the book or the article, and write a brief summary. This should be about 5 paragraphs long, so this is going to be 2 to 3 pages. This is not a super short assignment. If you choose to do the writing one, which is where you don't have to go on video, you don't have to be creative, you have to do the writing. It's 2 to 3 pages, okay? Number 4, pick a severe weather event, such as hurricanes or tornadoes. There's many types, you can look them up, that have already occurred, like Hurricane Katrina, or the tornadoes that ripped through Wadena, things like that. Research the storm, write a report on how it formed, where it formed, and the consequences like flooding or death toll or economic impact, things like that. You're going to use a Flipgrid or other video camera like this Screencastify to record your presentation. Okay, you're going to have to use Google Docs because you have to write it and you have to present it. And your 5th option is research to find a university where you can get a degree to be a meteorologist. So find a college that has a meteorology degree. Tell me what types of courses you would need to take and what types of jobs you could get with a meteorology degree. You're going to make a brochure which includes the answers to these questions and some interesting facts about meteorology. You're going to use Google Docs or Google Slides to create the brochure, and that would be your project. So you guys get to choose one of these 5. The one I think is super cool is number 2. You get to make some different weather instruments. So that one's pretty fun. They're all pretty good. You guys get to choose whichever one you want. So this is what I'd like you to say. If you have questions about what you need to do, it's all right here in the directions, okay? If you send me a question that is answered in these directions, I will send you an email telling you look at the directions, okay? You have to do research for this. This is not something I just give you information to. You have to do some research. That's why it's going to take 2 weeks. This is going to be your assignment for this week, and you're going to do this assignment next week, okay? So make sure you're getting it done. It is worth 25 test points. Some good places to look for some basic information is look at Google and look at YouTube for finding some different info, okay? I can also send you a list of resources if you would like, but do some research on your own first. So, let's see here. All right, that is the lesson for today. If you have any questions, send me an email. We're going to have a Google Meet Wednesday at 10 a.m. If you guys have any questions, let me know. And hopefully I'll see you Wednesday.